I was watching the game of the night, and during the commercials, I was flipping around the channels, and I came across this social justice warrior commentator, and he reminded me of you. You know, he was talking about the real motives of U.S. wars. I mean, come on. Some countries are run by evil dictators, and they just need someone to come in and straighten them out. And that's what the U.S. does, and the world's better for it.
You gotta be kidding. I don't know if you realize it, but for the last several decades, the U.S. has made a point of allying itself with brutal dictators like Saddam Hussein, one had suited their interests, as well as overthrowing democratically elected progressive leaders.
Even if the U.S. does support dictators, it's for the greater good. You can't only deal with saints, and the ends justify the means.
What ends? The only ends I can see in American-led wars seem to be promoting the interests of the American empire, its wealthy elites, and their banks and corporations. It's just like any other empire. The prime economic concerns are acquiring and controlling resources like oil, securing cheap sources of labor, and opening markets for its finished product.
Are you saying that U.S.-led wars are just about corporate profits?
Well, not totally. The U.S. also has strategic interests. It needs compliant allies and military bases around the world, for example in Central Asia, which allow it to protect global power and deter rivals. You saw that with the U.S. concern with preserving its bases during the Arab Spring revolts when people rose up against dictators who were backed by the U.S. A major American worry there was losing its Fifth Fleet naval base in Bahrain. These hundreds of foreign bases make up the American empire's physical structure. They're also valuable in further increasing U.S. military spending.
Come on, right-wing politicians hate government spending. Everybody knows that.
Okay, but not when massive tax money goes to military contractors and mercenary companies for America's increasingly privatized wars. There are huge profits for their corporate buddies in supplying the U.S. military with weapons and services and private armies. Look at Halliburton and Blackwater. This taxpayer money goes to corporations mainly owned by the rich. For decades, corporations and the wealthy have been gifted with tax cuts, so these taxes are increasingly paid by the working poor and middle class. So U.S. military spending takes money from the poor and transfers wealth to the rich and their corporations, a reverse Robin Hood.
So you're telling me that the U.S. needs wars, and that's what drives U.S. foreign policy? How?
It's as if America is always refighting World War II, combating the latest Hitler, an implacable enemy of infinite evil bent on world domination who must be stopped at all costs. It's like some evil caricature that America, the great avenger or savior, has to go in with its allies to defeat. Soviet communism, Latin American drug lords, Islamic terrorists, Saddam Hussein, Iran, North Korea, Putin's Russia. Always some new imminent threat the American government and its corporate media have to hype as jeopardizing the world. It's always something.
How does that serve the American empire?
Well, the U.S. government needs an endless parade of enemies to justify its bellicose stance and huge military spending. It frightens the American public to keep them obedient and forces them to live in this so-called security state, which is in fact an insecurity state. So instead of spending public money on education or healthcare or senior services or fixing up decaying infrastructure, they're pumping into the military-industrial complex, which is a waste of money that benefits big business, but not the public. It's like America has this flag fetish. It venerates all things military. It creates a patriotic fervor for the defense of America that ensures that there's always a supply of fresh recruits, many from impoverished backgrounds, to fight and die for the empire and their corporate overlords.